welcome to Geekology. I'm David Spooner.
And I'm Sven Harvey.
And as you can see, we have a myriad of Transformer toys. Now, this will surprise some of our viewers who know I have no Transformer knowledge. I recognise Soundwave.
Yes.
I recognise some of the Kiss Play cassettes.
Uh-huh.
I recognise that as an 85.
Yeah.
No idea what the one is next to it.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm confused.
Why?
Because we're meant to be doing masterpieces and these are G1s.
Yes, absolutely. But what we'll quickly do is mention who these guys are, because without a little bit of back information, what we're going to have a look at is going to make a lot of sense.
Okay, alright.
Okay. You recognise Soundwave, that's a 1985 Soundwave down the front there. You can tell that because it's got a rub sign on it, whereas the 1984 version didn't have a rub sign. It's before they introduced those. Now, Soundwave...
Is that the technical term? A rub sign?
Yes, it's called a rub sign. One of the interesting
Kiss
things
Play
about...
figures have rub signs.
Let's not go there. I thought we weren't going to focus on that.
No.
One of the interesting things about Soundwave, though, is that in the UK, for the first year, there was no Megatron toy.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Why?
Why? It was Gunn, and they weren't sure about bringing him across at the time. There was all sorts of legal issues.
I wanted that toy.
Yeah.
Regardless of Transformers.
But what was interesting is basically, even though Starscream was in the range, Soundwave was kind of pushed as the leader of the Decepticons in the UK for the first year.
Oh, right.
Now, even the front cover of the first issue of the UK comic had Optimus Prime beating in battle with Soundwave and Buzzsaw, in fact.
Right.
So that's why Soundwave is quite possibly the second most well known of the Transformers across the entire world, because Megatron wasn't out everywhere, and in fact Optimus Prime didn't come out in certain parts of Europe for the first year and came along a little bit later, because in Europe Transformers started in 1985 and Optimus Prime wasn't actually available until very late 85, early 1986,
right,
because of licensing issues. And in those countries Jetfire was in command, which is just mind-blowing.
Okay. Is this in the comic? Because I'm presuming the animated series would have had to be really edited.
Oh no, it was. I mean, this is the thing. This was literally just in the catalogues, because this was literally Hasbro.
Oh, this is back. This is proper back in the day.
Oh, it's proper back in the day.
Right.
Hasbro and the MB catalogues, as it was in the rest of Europe.
So they so they just pushed the toy that was available in that market.
What was quite interesting is, of course, because we got Transformers in the UK in 1984, whereas the rest of Europe didn't get it till 1985. And in fact, Japan didn't get it till 1985 because they were still doing Diaclone in 1984.
So why did we get a year earlier?
It's simply because we got the American packaging.
Oh, okay.
It was actually marketed by a company called Hasbro Industries, I think it was, right. GB Limited, before it became Hasbro Europe and Hasbro UK.
Okay,
which is why when you ask Hasbro UK or Hasbro Europe when it started in the UK, they say 1985 because their records only go back to then. Which is quite intriguing. But yes, Soundwave has always been one of the most important of the characters.
Yeah.
And in the British comic, he has in fact taken command more than once when Megatron and Shockwave rather have been missing or deactivated or whatever. And on a regular basis tends to actually inflict more damage on the Autobots than those the other two guys did as well, which is quite funny. But having a quick look at these guys, we've got a 1985 Soundwave, we've got a reissue, recentish Soundwave, we've got a reissue of Sound Blaster, which is the rebuilt version of Soundwave if it gets blown up by Blaster. So we've got Blaster there, which is the Autobot communicator.
Blaster.
Absolutely. In the same battle, he gets destroyed, so he gets rebuilt as Twincast.
Yeah, see, I didn't think.
This is in the Japanese version of the TV show, whereas in some other versions of the story, they're actually separate characters.
No, he hasn't got one of the rub. He's got. Is that paint, or is that a replacement?
That's a painted one. That is.
It's a painted one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because they changed the way they were producing them a little while. For a little while. What we have here is quite a lot of all of the cassettes that have been released. I don't have the Dino Autobot cassettes because they're ridiculously expensive.
Oh, those are they're ridiculously rare. I heard about those.
Very hard to get hold of.
Weren't they Japanese only?
Yeah, Japanese only, and only for about half a year or something ridiculous. They're they're dinosaurs that combine with each other into bigger robots.
Hang on, I know something about that one. Wasn't there another toy company who did a fake version?
Yeah. There's copies running around, so you have to be very, very careful, especially when the copies are fetching stupid amounts of money as well. It's nuts.
Oh, okay.
Because they're very difficult to tell apart for a lot of people, and to be honest, the copy versions are almost as rare, so it's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. There's also been very recently a set of shattered glass releases, which are basically the mirror universe essentially, where there's the Soundwave and there's a blaster and some of their cassettes, and they basically swap places colour-wise. So I haven't got that yet. Is that
on the shopping list?
It's on the shopping list at some point. What is of interest for today, though, are the original 5 cassettes, which were... Go on.
This one?
Yeah. Remember his name?
No.
Laserbeak.
This one?
Buzzsaw, which is the same mould.
Damn, you had to name him. I knew that one.
Yeah, he's got the gold.
That one definitely isn't.
No.
I'm going to say this one.
No.
Okay. Alright, I'm going to stick one on my head with those.
Right, okay. That's a bit of a trick one, because that was released in blue as part of Microchange before Transformers came out. It was never released as a Transformer until they started doing reissues a few years ago. Okay. Because one of the things they did with the reissues is to make the most of the bringing the moulds back. Is they basically went back to the pre-Transformers releases of some of the moulds and basically went with the colour schemes they had then, which is why Tiger Track exists, for instance. That's actually Garboil, and there's a blue Ravage, which is called Howlback. But there's the original Ravage, that's the Black Panther, or Jaguar. And then you've got, now I'm going to have to be very careful here, American fans who are very much into the TV show may explode. That's Rumble, and that's Frenzy.
Okay, now there's a joke there I'm not going... Now I know there's a whole touchy thing about the cassettes being in red and blue.
Yes, basically what happened was that when they did the American version of the TV show, which they actually did before the Japanese one, just to be very confusing, there was an error made. If you look at the actual series Bible, it says that Rumble is the red one in the series Bible, but when they actually did the production for the first few episodes, for some reason nobody's been able to track down why the blue robot was called Rumble instead of Frenzy.
Right.
And it basically carried on from there in the American cartoon. And anything that spins out from specifically the American cartoon, like Fall of Cybertron, Frenzy tends to be red and Rumble is blue. Whereas the original toys, Rumble was always the red one.
Okay, now the reason I remember that there's something special about the red and blue is a few years ago you were very excited about a Transformer that was both red and blue.
Yes, I don't know whether this was literally the toy company trolling people, but they took the same mould and did it in red and blue and called it Enemy.
Oh right, okay. Was that just to annoy the Americans?
I'm not entirely sure, but that's genius. That's absolute genius. Okay. But yes, it's quite interesting because they made that was actually an error at the end of the day, but because so many of the American fans especially grew up on the TV show first and then came to the toys afterwards, or then came to the comics afterwards, in their head Rumble's blue and Frenzy's red.
It's Kirk over Picard. It depends how old the person is you ask.
Whereas interestingly over in the UK we got the toys very much first. The comic came out in September 1984. We didn't see the TV show. Yeah, and we didn't see the TV show until the following year. So when the TV show came out with this blue Rumble running around, the majority of the British fans were already into it. Were going, "What the hell's going on here? There's an error." The most hilarious thing is the fact that when they did the Japanese version of the show, they corrected the error. So it's only the original TV show really, and anything that they spin out from it. So anybody who is a fan of the original TV show, especially in the States, who then does a Transformers project later on, puts them as Rumble is blue and Frenzy is red. So Fall of Cybertron's got it that way around, and a few other little bits and pieces. For instance, Diamond Toys statues have it the cartoon way round, whereas anything made outside of the States tends to be the way round it was for the original toys. So in my head, Rumble's always going to be red and black because the toy came first.
See, now I would cheat. I would just do the toy on a plinth and have you be able to change on the
Well, this is the thing, is since then, it's been introduced that Transformers can change the colour, so it could be just to confuse the hell out of the Autobots.
Let's be thankful that they never did Splash Transformers.
They did.
They did.
Generation 2, yeah. Yeah, they did colour change Transformers in what? Well,
I've not seen those in your collection. Are they in one of the weirder glass
they're
cases?
very looked after because the plastic degrades really quick.
Let me guess, especially if you get it wet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The interesting thing is that there was actually the Aqua Speeders and the Stormtroopers, which were actually G1 toys in the UK.
Whoa. There were Transformers called Stormtroopers.
Yes, Stormtroopers, because they got wet, they blasted each other with water. I know.
Oh.
Don't take the mick out of Star Wars.
This is why you don't let me come to the Transformer conventions anymore.
But those two were actually originally they were UK exclusive G1 toys, but using the G2 logos because we got this entire range while the States had nothing, and it continued on. And what the States got is they got the Aqua Speeders, which is the Autobot versions. They got them released as colour change cars in Generation 2 in the States, and 2 of them were Autobots and 2 of them were Decepticons. So they really mixed that one up. Okay. One of them was called GoBots because they just bought GoBots because they bought Tonka. They owned GoBots at that point, which is why when Transformers Armada came out, the minicon for Megatron was Leader 1. Yeah.
I remember the GoBots. Ooh.
Yeah. Never mind. But anyway, Soundwave, Buzzsaw, Laserbeak, Ravage, Frenzy, Rumble. I've got a feeling some of our viewers are now going to work out what we're doing. Oh yeah!
It's a nice toy.
Masterpiece Soundwave.
Okay, so first things first, packaging.
Yes.
Nice and embossed on the side.
Yeah.
It's got the character spec.
But only for Soundwave.
Yes, not for the cassette.
Now, interesting in here, you get Soundwave, you get Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, Rumble, Frenzy, and Ravage, but there's no tech specs or bioprofile for anybody but Soundwave, which is a shame, as even when he was originally released with Buzzsaw in the box, both tech specs were on the back of the box.
Yes.
And when you bought the other cassettes, they came all with their own.
I've seen those on the 4-pack.
Which is a little bit of a shame. But what we'll do, we'll open up the box and show you the contents. Back in a moment.
And welcome back.
So here we have Masterpiece Soundwave and the Masterpiece cassettes that come with him from the UK / American release out of the box here, and comparing with the original versions. Though this is a reissue Soundwave, it's basically the same as the original one. The only difference being there was a slight change in the tape door, because there was actually about 3 or 4 versions of the mould running around at one point. So just depends on where it was originated from, because it'd been licensed out and all over the place at one point or another and re-engineered for different markets.
Now, obviously, you come at this from a fanboy point of view.
Oh, completely.
And I always come at Transformers from a toy point of view.
Yes.
My first comment would be, I mean, you know I like the Masterpieces.
Yeah.
I think they're a bit expensive, but generally, I think the quality of the toy is very good. What surprised me about this one, because he actually let me transform, although we did watch it very, very carefully. I really wish we had it on tape as I was trying to do the cassette, but I'll come to that in a minute. The reissue for Soundwave is so much bigger than the original toy. Is absolutely gorgeous, but the cassette tapes are actually slightly smaller than the originals.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is in cassette mode they're exactly the same size.
Yeah.
Pretty much, but that's because the original G1 ones, you're taking the weapons off.
One of the things I really liked about these, now 2 of these had the weapons actually built in.
3 of them, yeah, so Ravage, Laserbeak and Buzzsaw have the weapons built in, whereas the original G1 ones you had to take the weapons off and put them back on.
Now the one I'm holding, which was a really bad one to have near me to prove the point that I wanted to say, came with it packed inside this thing, which you were muttering and swearing at. I'm glad we didn't get that bit on tape. You can explain why you were, because you didn't explain why, but you were really annoyed about that. I'm not quite sure why the weapons are in there, but yeah, I mean it is really nice. They've done such a fantastic job on these. They really do look the part. And again, personal preference. I like the fact that they did it in silver plastic rather than the chrome, because the chrome never ages well on any toy. So I thought that for the Masterpieces was just phenomenal. And really easy to transform. The Soundwave, bit fiddly with the cassettes.
Yes, absolutely. But then again, there's a lot more smaller moving parts in the cassettes than there were originally for the G1 ones.
Yeah.
Mainly because of, especially on these guys, is because of the built-in weaponry. Generally speaking, I think the Condors are actually my favourite of the cassettes. The one thing I haven't shown you yet, on Laserbeak and Buzzsaw, you see the little hatch on his head?
Yeah.
That's the camera from Transformers the movie.
Ah!
If I can get it to flip out, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do, because these are fiddly. Very fiddly, but there we go, there's his little camera. I can get it, it doesn't really show up very well, but yeah, that's his camera from...
That's really cool.
Which is really cool.
Actually, I know this is a complete side thing. I like the fact they had the little cassette boxes with them as well.
Yes, that's interesting actually, because the G1 versions in Japan had the cassette boxes with them.
Did they?
Yes, and there was a small release of the Italian issues of Microchange. In fact, they were available across quite a lot of Europe, but didn't hit the UK until 1984 when the official releases were out. So there were some retailers where you could find dump baskets full of the Microchange versions of the characters in the cassette boxes on sale just as they were. Which was quite intriguing. That happened in Harborne at Harborne Toys and Models when it was still there. They did that a lot, and they were still official Takara product, but they weren't Transformers yet, which is quite intriguing. Which is why I've seen blue Ravages and blue Laserbeaks running around before us, because they were Microchange versions. Which is quite intriguing. There are a couple of things that annoy me, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, seriously, what is this and why was you muttering about it? I mean, it's what,
these
Canon or
are
something?
They're pile drivers. Do you remember the cartoon series?
Vaguely.
Okay.
Yay!
Yay!
Kaplunk!
These basically were put into the cartoon series. Originally, this was not supposed to be part of the characters.
Right.
This was basically invented for the cartoon series to explain Rumble and Frenzy's abilities, whereas in the comics and expanded versions, the tech specs, now bearing in mind the expanded versions weren't on the boxes, so more people don't know about it, is that the sound waves that they use to disrupt things...
Sonic?
It's supposed to be sonic things produced in their abdomen.
Oh.
Whereas in the cartoon series, their arms transformed into pile drive and they banged the floor. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So,
at
but it
the
was
end
just
of the
to
day, they
simplify it
transformed into things that made audio. Therefore, Sonic should not have been a huge stretch of the imagination.
Frenzy especially, because in the comic he was seen... Well, Frenzy and Rumble were both seen in the comic literally standing there and sound waves emanating from them.
Right.
Rather than using these. But it was actually in the British comic, they kind of did a Mickey take story called Decepticon Dam Busters, where they adapted one of the cartoon stories and actually had Rumble on the bottom of a river pounding away with a pair of pile drivers, but it was actually explained away in the letters page as being a fiction, which is quite funny.
Okay, I'm not sure why that warranted all the muttering then.
Oh, it's just something because it wasn't on the original toys as far as I'm concerned. Because as far as I'm concerned, the original toys come first, then the comics.
But
then
if
the TV
Takara, who are the bunnies who make it, say that it does, then it does.
Yeah, they didn't say originally; they just adapted it for the cartoon series.
Right.
The other little bugbear I've got on these guys is, again, this is the reason why I like the Condors better, why I like Laserbeak and Buzzsaw, because they've got yellow eyes, and the original ones had gold eyes.
Yeah.
If you look at Rumble and Frenzy, the original ones had silver eyes, and they've now got red eyes to match the cartoon series. And with Ravage, he used to have gold eyes, and now he has very, very tiny barely visible.
I didn't like the head on that one. I thought the body was great, but the head didn't...
I'll be honest with you, I really like these guys. I really like these guys. I mean, the pile drivers are fortunately they're an option, because I won't display them with the pile drivers, but I would imagine anybody who was really into the cartoon series rather than the original toys or the original comic have the option at very least, so they can put it how they want to. That's a downgraded toy from the G11. It doesn't look right. He does not look right anyway. He's too spindly. I mean, this guy is supposed to be Megatron's main bodyguard. And if you compare the two, I think the G1 toy is the better toy.
Okay, now this is where I have to show my ignorance. The G1 version has got the rub logo. Yeah. How come the Masterpieces don't have the rub logo?
The rub logo originally was supposed to act as proof that it's a proper Transformer. That was the whole point of it. It was basically an authenticity certificate.
Oh, right.
That was the
I just thought it was a neat gimmick.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was basically... because back then, making them wasn't easy, and Hasbro Takara had basically had some form of copyright over the process or something that were using them. But you'll find if you pick up a very, very early Transformer from 1984, there's no mention of them in the manual. There's nothing on the toy because they were introduced in 1985 when people started copying them. Cool. So that's of interest. One thing I should mention as well is one of the reasons I went for the Hasbro version. I mean, apart from the price, because with the Hasbro version for the British price of $125, I think it was, you could get Soundwave, Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, Ravage, Frenzy and Rumble. Whereas in Japan he was released with just Laserbeak.
Just the one
cassette, and was selling in this country for around about £150 to £200.
Well, how did they get the other characters? Separate packs?
Separate packs of two. So you got Rumble and Ravage together, and you got Frenzy and Buzzsaw together, and they were £50 each for the packs. So suddenly the Hasbro version...
You're looking at £250,
yeah,
as opposed to
125. So it's literally half the price.
Okay, what was the advantage of getting the Takara version?
Well, it depends on the fan. Again, you've got a situation... And this is bizarre, because in the cartoon series, like all of the Decepticons, the optics were changed to red, the eyes were changed to red.
Yeah, good and bad.
Now, whereas the original toy of Soundwave has got gold optics.
Yes.
So, the Hasbro version has got gold optics. The Takara version got red optics.
I should imagine there's a few fans out there that would really want...
The red optics, yeah. Whereas I wanted the gold ones because I'm more into the original toys than I was the original TV show.
Yeah.
Again, the comic.
And again, that way you got all the versions of the cassette tapes.
Yes, exactly. Now, there are a few other paint applications that are slightly different. There's little bits of unpainted sections on him. And there's a CE mark on the side for European and UK release to make it legal. Which should have been on the box really, but
it seems weird that they actually put that on the toy.
And the other things is the Takara version has better instructions that tell you all of the extra features that the American version of the instructions don't tell you, the American and British one.
I'm presuming that's downloadable though.
Oh yeah, you can get all of them, and there's plenty of forums about them, forum information about it. I will also mention there's quite a lot of accessories that come with Soundwave as well. So
actually, I was quite impressed with this one, the Energon Cube. Although I have to say, I remember the Energon Cube from the TV series, and I remember it being more square.
It wasn't actually. If you look at the cartoon series, it does actually come out like that, and it becomes a square after it's come off Soundwave. Yeah, so it's very clever. I mean, that was a slight animation error, but it's mainly because Soundwave's chest is not square.
I don't get why they made it openable. I mean, is that so you can put glowy liquid in so you can get the nice
there is
effect?
that, but in Japan you could actually download a cutout to put inside it, which looked like the inside of an Energon Cube, which was
really
quite a nice thing. But yeah, absolutely.
See, I'm surprised they've never done that for the grid pattern that they had on. I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, because that plugs onto the front of him, or you can plug the grid on, which is again from the early episodes of the cartoon series. Right. And originally you had the grid, and then you could have, and then they showed it up with the space cruiser they were trying to build. So I'm not sure.
Because I remember that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's downloadable. I haven't seen that, but if you get the Space Cruiser on some tracing paper.
Yeah, but somebody just did that. 2 seconds in Photoshop. Yeah.
Here we have another accessory, which is a projector, which was from, again, the cartoon series, so I'm not particularly bothered about that myself, but I would imagine, again, people who are into the cartoon series primarily would be really into that.
Actually, you know what? I've only been to a few of the AAs, and I was talking to some really cool people who were both comic orientated I've never seemed to find, a great divide, although people argued about semantics.
Yeah.
The fans for Transformers never seemed to be at odds with one another.
No, I mean,
which fandom it was they followed.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, Generation 1 is Generation 1 at the end of the day. There was just minor changes in the different universes. I mean, this is the thing, is you've got the comic, you've got the original toys, the original toy characters and ideas were then adapted into the comics and into the cartoon. The comic was always going to be slightly more accurate to the original toy stuff
for the toys,
because the characters were written by Marvel for the toy boxes.
Oh, no, that I didn't know.
Yeah, so Optimus Prime is Latin for first or best leader. That was created by Marvel, Ultra Magnus and so on and so forth, Soundwave, Megatron.
So were Hasbro working that hand in hand with them
Yes.
over there?
Yeah, absolutely. And then when the cartoon series was made, though Marvel had a hand in the cartoon series, it kind of became its own thing. But then to really complicate things, you then had Lady Bird books doing their own versions of the stories, and there was other media, and there was so on and so forth, and it just got to the point where G1 is in its own multiverse of its own, and then you've got all the other versions of Transformers in other universes, to the point where they could actually create a story later on where all universes interacted, and Unicron turns out to be the centre of the multiverse. He's the singularity that everything's revolving around, story-wise.
Which makes
a lot
of sense. Yeah.
Before I forget, there's one more accessory that you'll enjoy. You recognise that?
I saw the little purple logo on the side. Yeah, see, I've got to admit, and again, sorry Transformer fans, I never quite got why the leader of the Decepticons, the almighty Megatron, turned into a gun that somebody else had to wield.
I know.
That always seemed... I never got that, although this is absolutely... You know what would have made this so much nicer? If it transformed.
Into a little Megatron.
Tiny Megatron. I don't know how they could have done it. Well, it cost a lot of money and you'd have needed tweezers.
There's a smaller Megatron that does transform in the world's smallest Transformers range. I'll have to show you that.
You have to show me that. It's been a while since I saw it.
But that's been designed, so you have it like it should be, and then you can extend it out so Soundwave can hold him.
Yeah.
Which is really quite cool. So yes. He has got a few features that have missed out being mentioned on the American and British instructions.
Yeah.
One of them being is that there's little grooves on Laserbeak and Buzzsaw.
So he slides on and can be held in place.
Yes.
That's nice.
Which is really quite cool. And there's also an extra...
and I love the way they do it just by using standard plastic grooves.
Yeah.
So it's not, glaringly obvious. Here is a grip point.
Yeah. There we go.
You see, the geek in me goes, maggots.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We'll show you some photos of these guys in both modes actually, so you might have seen a few by the time we get to this point in the video. But that is a really, really nice thing to do.
Yeah.
They really didn't have to do. Another one is because the cassettes are the right size, you can put G1 cassettes in them.
That's cool.
So in goes, let's put a proper Ravage in. Because I really don't like that Masterpiece Ravage. It just doesn't do it for me at all. But again, we've got the working eject button. In we pop. Now, what's interesting is the original Soundwave could only store one cassette.
Yes.
So let's take Glit here. Who's a repaint of Ravage at the end of the day. This is one thing I didn't find out about until quite recently. Pushes back inside,
You can put 2 tapes on the inside.
You can put 3 in.
Ah, well, I suppose if we've got room in there for the Energon cube, then.
Oh, put 1, 2.
Okay, that's neat.
And we'll pop in. Oh, let's just go with a Ravage. A Ravage.
Okay, that's neat from a toy point of view.
Yeah.
Kind of unnecessary for a masterpiece. Who's going to go? I've just spent £120 so I can have him with all of the cassette tapes. Now let me hide them all in his chest. Well, 3 of them in his chest.
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing is the British comic started off having Soundwave. Well, I say started off from about, I think it was issue 25 or 20 or something like that. Had Soundwave as the letter answerer, and someone asked how many cassettes can you fit inside, and Comic Soundwave said I can only store 1. Because the toy could only do it, and in the comic he only ever carried 1 cassette around inside him.
Okay.
But if he stays in robot mode and they shrink down to cassette mode, you could get quite a few in, I would have thought. But what they've done with this toy is, right, we eject, 1 comes out, close up, press a button on the back, they come forward, eject, comes out, close it up, press a button on the back, eject, and the 3rd one comes out.
Okay, that's
how cool is that?
Yeah, I totally.
That's brilliant.
I'll tell you what I do like as well. You're gonna have to do a really nice photo of this. The fact that it's a spring-loaded plate.
Yeah.
So that if you've got it open, you think you can only get 1 in.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
Really quite cool.
Rather than just doing like a hollow chest with a back picture or back plate. So they obviously put a lot of thought into it.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, I'm already on record as saying I like the masterpieces because generally I do. I think they're very nice toys.
One cool thing they're actually doing, which could be classified as gouging the fans, is they're doing a repaint of Soundwave, Masterpiece Soundwave as Sound Blaster, so it's getting the black paint scheme.
Yeah.
And will also mean that it'll have the correct red eyes, because Sound Blaster did have red eyes in every version of him.
Right.
What they are doing, which is a bit naughty, is he's going to come with Rat-Bat, Masterpiece Rat-Bat.
Nice.
As far as we know, that's the only way you can get Masterpiece Rat-Bat. So you have to buy the mould again to get the Masterpiece Rat-Bat.
Is he an important character in the universe, or is it just one of those, I want to complete my set?
It's interesting, because in the cartoon series, he was very much a bit player. He was just another cassette.
It's about. Yeah.
It's about. He just swoops around spying on people. In the comic, he was a Decepticon commander because he was a fuel auditor. Right. He was in charge of the entire economy of Cybertron at one point. So he was basically took command of the Decepticons on that basis.
Okay, so somebody who's really into the comics who really wants that toy.
Yeah, quite. And you know they're going to repaint it as Wing Thing at some point.
I do like the fact that they look very different to the others.
This is one of the things that's very important about the original characters for me, is when they started G1, is that you had repaints of almost everything. So Laserbeak and Buzzsaw were the same toy in 2 different colours. What made the difference is on the back of the packaging is they had very different characters. Even down to the fact that Frenzy and Rumble, they were clearly brothers. They were both punk kids, essentially. That's where they came from. But they had different functions and different ways of doing things. Frenzy was a warrior. Rumble was actually a demolitions expert. So that makes perfect sense. So, you know, in these days when we're seeing repaints a lot these days, especially on the British packaging when there's no characterisation and no details on who the character is, kind of feels like a bit of a rip-off. I mean, a lot of people say, why is Thundercracker and Skywalker always a repaint of Starscream? Well, that's because right at the beginning they were just repaints of Starscream, but because of the characters, that's what made them different. Cool. But coming back to Soundwave, he's fantastic. I love this toy. It's probably my favourite of the Decepticon masterpieces. And he looks really good next to the new Masterpiece Optimus. So I can't really recommend him enough, especially at the UK-US price point with all 5 cassettes. That's fantastic value. Absolutely.
Well, I definitely agree with you to get the UK version, unless you very specifically want the
just
eyes.
finding it now.
Yeah.
Because it's already disappeared.
But I love the gun. I really like, even though I did say they were fiddly, really do like the cassettes. They're nice. The Soundwave himself, yeah, I like him bigger. Toy is far more sturdy than his predecessors, but you expect it. Yeah, it's a good solid toy. I can see how it would appeal to the collector's market from a non-fanboy point of view, but a fan of toys. The points that I would argue with are the cassette tapes look far more detailed. The toy itself is very sturdy. There's some really nice features added to it, like the spring trap, like the fact it grips on. It's got a nice solid feel to it, and it's easy to transform. Which we unfortunately had to edit out me trying to transform it because I thought he was going to have a heart attack. But in all fairness, I did manage it eventually. But yeah, it's a nice toy. I can see why the fans would really like it. They did a really good job on the paint job. The mould points aren't too bad. Again, there's screw points and things like that, which I would argue when you're paying that much for toys, I don't like to see them. On the other hand, they're meant to be, G1. So yeah, fair enough. I'd definitely recommend it if you're a Transformers fan. If you just want a nice looking robot in the same price range, I'd still probably go with the Gundam ones. But again, not a Transformers fan. Okay, so what's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. You can subscribe to us here on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And Auto Assembly is August. We'll be filming a Transformers special from that event. More details to follow on that once we confirm
hammer things out.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much and good night.
Bye. And apologies to he has got a few features that have missed out being mentioned on the American and British instructions. One of them being is that there's little grooves on Laserbeak and Buzzsaw.
So he slides on and can be held in place?
Yes.
That's nice.
Which is really quite cool. And there's also an extra...
and I love the way they do it just by using standard plastic grooves.
Yeah.
So it's not, glaringly obvious. Here is a grip point.
Yeah.
If you can get it to grip on. We're not editing this bit, by the way, so if he can't do it... there's somebody out there with a stopwatch.
Oh, yeah.
How long it takes them to do it.
Oh, God.
Please make sure that you note your time below if you can do this quicker.
I can't even see it clearly enough. Oh, God.
Don't edit this, please. You always do the bloopers with me.
I'm going cross-eyed looking at it.
Okay, you know what? This is going to be funny.
Oh, got it! Yay!
Oh, I wanted to actually, no, you know what? Give me the other one. Okay. I'm going to see if I can get it on the other side.
Faster. You can actually go on his wrist as well.
What, like a condor?
Yeah. Well, they are condors to a certain degree.
Yeah, I suppose. No, I'm going to go for the shoulder because that's the one that you were doing.
Struggling with.
Are you clipping or sliding?
It slides on.
Oh, okay. This might take me a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to break it. Stop sweating. I can actually hear you perspiring. Yeah, I quit. There you go.
Let's put him on the side because Soundwave have had a tendency to do the whole falconry thing with the guys, so that was always quite cool when they did that. There we go.
You see, the geek in me goes, magnets.
Yeah, I know what you mean.